Ever thought how the traditional rules of business might be holding you back from success? It's time to reconsider. Let's delve into the revolutionary book, Rework, penned by the insightful duo Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson. These authors aren't your typical business gurus. They challenge the conventional, the time-honored, the so-called tried and true. They urge us to break free from the shackles of outdated business wisdom and offer a fresh, invigorating perspective. Rework is not just a book, it's a mindset, a manifesto for the modern entrepreneur. It's about rethinking, reimagining, and reworking the way we do business. So fasten your seatbelts and hold on tight. Get ready to unlearn the old business playbook and discover key ideas from the book Rework that could redefine your path to success. What if the real world is merely a code word for pessimistic barriers? This provocative question is at the heart of our first key idea from the book Rework. The authors, Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansson, prompt us to reconsider the constraints we often impose upon ourselves. They argue that the real world we often refer to is just a set of limiting beliefs, a pessimistic viewpoint that stifles creativity and innovation. But what if we could break free from these barriers? What if we could ignore the real world and its so-called rules? This doesn't mean turning a blind eye to practicalities or challenges, but rather, it invites us to question the status quo, to innovate fearlessly, and to not be bound by the limitations of the real world. It's about cultivating a mindset that sees beyond the present, that isn't afraid to push boundaries and redefine what's possible. So next time you're faced with a real-world constraint, remember this idea: don't let it box you in. Instead, let it be a springboard for innovation, for change, for creating something truly unique. After all, innovation doesn't have to fit into the real world. It can redefine it. Do you believe that we learn the most from our mistakes? Think again. It's a common belief that our blunders are our greatest teachers. But the authors of Rework beg to differ. They argue that this ideology has been overhyped, overshadowing the equally, if not more, important lessons that success can bring. Consider this. When you succeed, you're doing something right. That something holds insights that are worth repeating and refining. Success, therefore, is a goldmine of knowledge waiting to be leveraged. On the other hand, when you trip up, you learn what not to do. But avoiding a pitfall doesn't necessarily set you on the path to triumph. So rather than dwelling on our missteps, let's shift our focus to our victories. Let's dissect our achievements, understand the elements that contributed to our win, and use those insights to replicate and augment success. After all, isn't the goal to succeed repeatedly, not just avoid failure? Success, not just failure, holds valuable lessons. It's about time we start learning from them. Are your plans really just sophisticated guesses? Let's think about that for a moment. We've all been taught that detailed long-term plans are the roadmap to success. But in the rapidly changing world of business, are these plans anything more than educated guesses? Consider this. Business evolves at an incredible pace. Technologies change, markets fluctuate, and consumer behavior shifts like sand under our feet. In such an unpredictable environment, can a plan made today hold true for tomorrow, let alone a year down the line? Long-term planning can often be an exercise in futility. It's like trying to predict the weather months in advance. You might get the broad strokes right, but the details, those are likely to change. And it's the details that often matter the most. Instead, consider adopting a just-in-time approach. Make decisions when you have the most information. When the situation is unfolding in front of you, that's when you have the best chance of making the right call. So, don't be afraid of the unpredictable. Embrace it. After all, in business as in life, the only constant is change. Embrace the unpredictable. Make decisions when you have the most information, which is usually just in time. Is working longer hours the secret to success? Not necessarily. In the book Rework, the authors challenge the commonly held belief that workaholism is the pathway to success. They argue that obsession with work and extended hours spent laboring can actually be counterproductive. Instead, they propose a more efficient approach to work. They suggest that it's not about how many hours you put into your work, but rather how you use those hours. It's about prioritizing tasks, setting clear goals, and focusing your energy on what matters most. Rather than burning the midnight oil, they encourage taking time to rest and recharge. A rested mind, they argue, is more creative, more efficient, and ultimately more productive. It's about working smarter, not harder. They emphasize that efficiency and effectiveness are not measured by the clock, but by output and outcomes. So the next time you find yourself working late into the night, ask yourself, am I being productive or just busy? Remember, workaholism isn't a badge of honor, it's a trap. Break free from it. Be smart, be efficient, be productive. Productivity isn't about how long you work, but how smart you work. Can limitations actually fuel your creativity and efficiency? You might be surprised by the answer. In the realm of business and entrepreneurship, we often view constraints as obstacles that block our path to success. But what if we could flip the narrative? What if we could see constraints not as hindrances, but as catalysts for innovation and efficiency? The authors of the book, Rework, propose just that. They argue that constraints should be embraced, not avoided. They believe that when we're boxed in by limitations, it forces us to think more creatively, to find new and innovative solutions to the problems at hand. Let's take budget constraints, for example. At first glance, a tight budget might seem like a major roadblock. But instead of viewing it negatively, what if we saw it as a chance to prioritize, to focus on what's truly essential? It's in these moments of constraint that we often discover the most valuable elements of our projects or businesses, or consider time constraints. We're all familiar with the stress of a looming deadline, but what if that pressure could actually make us more efficient? When we have fewer hours in the day, we're forced to streamline our processes, cut out the fluff, and get straight to the point. And it's not just about budget and time. Constraints can come in all shapes and sizes. Maybe it's a small team, limited resources, or even a lack of experience. Each of these constraints provides a unique opportunity to think outside the box, to challenge the status quo, and to innovate. So the next time you're faced with a constraint, don't shy away from it. Embrace it. See it as a chance to be creative, to be efficient, to be innovative. Remember, limitations aren't meant to stifle us. They're designed to push us, to challenge us, and ultimately to help us grow. Constraints aren't hurdles. They're opportunities to think differently. Are more minds in a meeting always better? This is a question that many organizations grapple with. The authors of Rework challenge this notion. They suggest that meetings should be as small as possible. The idea is that with fewer people, there's less distraction and more focus. Think about it. When you have a room full of people, it's easy for discussions to go off track. Multiple viewpoints can lead to confusion and a lack of consensus. But when you limit the number of participants, each person's input becomes more valuable. The conversation stays focused, decisions are reached faster, and the meeting becomes a tool for efficiency rather than a time sink. Moreover, keeping meetings small allows those not in the meeting to continue with their work uninterrupted. After all, every person in a meeting is one less person contributing to the actual work. So, the next time you schedule a meeting, consider who really needs to be there. Keep it lean, keep it focused, and watch your productivity soar. Remember, in meetings, less is more. More focus, more efficiency, more results. Does obscurity knock you down, or does it offer a chance to rise? This might sound counterintuitive, but there's a certain charm to being unknown. According to the book Rework, obscurity should not be viewed as a setback. Quite the contrary, it's a realm of endless possibilities. When we're obscure, we're free from the pressure of public scrutiny. It's a safe space where we can experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them without the fear of being judged. It's the perfect breeding ground for innovation and creativity. Being obscure gives us the liberty to take our time and refine our craft. It allows us to explore different directions and develop a unique approach. It's an opportunity to create something truly original, something that stands out from the crowd. So next time you feel overshadowed, remember it's not a disadvantage. It's your secret weapon. It's your chance to experiment, to learn, and to grow. So embrace obscurity. Use it as your playground. Obscurity isn't a threat. It's a protective shield, giving you room to grow. Ready to rework your business mindset? Let's take a moment to revisit the 7 provocative ideas we've explored from the book Rework. First, we learned to ignore the real world and its so-called norms. Second, we discovered that learning from mistakes is overrated. Instead, we should be focusing on our successes. Third, we debunked the myth of planning, recognizing it as mere guessing. Fourth, we questioned the glorification of workaholism. Remember, work smarter, not harder. Fifth, we learned to embrace constraints, using them as fuel for creativity. Sixth, we explored the idea of sending fewer people to meetings, saving time and increasing productivity. Finally, we embraced obscurity, understanding that it's okay not to be a sensation overnight. Each of these ideas challenges the traditional business mindset, pushing us to think differently, to rework our approach. By doing so, we unlock new paths to innovation and success.